I want to talk about social media for record labels, especially if you hate doing social media, if you run a record label and you feel like you have to do social media. That's what I want to talk about today. For a lot of you, you got into this job because you love music, you love artists, you love supporting music and supporting artists, not because you have some sort of affinity for a certain social media platform. No one starts off as a social media influencer and then pivots into starting a record label. It's usually the awkward opposite, where record labels who got started now feel like they have to do social media. So today I want to talk about 3 mistakes I see record labels make when it comes to utilizing social media. Then I have some solutions for you. Today's episode is part of a new series about marketing that we're doing to celebrate the launch of a new book. Can I pop it up here? Great. This is called Record Label Marketing Strategies. It's a new book that we're just releasing now, and you can get it on Amazon or you can get it in the link in the description below. I think you're going to find it really helpful if you're a record label. Secondly, we're going to go really deep today. There's a lot that I want to cover. And so in order for you to if you want to keep notes, that's really helpful. But I'm going to compile all of my notes today on a webpage. If you go to otherrecordlabels.com/social media, that's where I'm going to put the notes and some visualizations from today's talk in there so that you can have that as a reference for you, because I'm going to go through a lot of different points and I'm going to be looking at my notes a lot as well. So I want you to just kind of keep up. Let me make the font size a little bit bigger here. Okay, so let's start with the 3 most common social media mistakes I see. Now, not only being a record label but I am in this interesting position where I actually research a lot of record labels for this show, and I interview a lot of record labels, and oftentimes I just want to hear music or I want to learn a little bit about them, and I go to their social media, and I'm really surprised at how difficult a lot of people make it. And these are some of the things I'm really surprised at, how difficult that some record labels make it for me to discover music and to learn more about them, and to make it difficult for me to move from their social media to their website or to learn more about them. So we're going to tackle some of these problems that I see. Number 1, copying other people. I heard this great quote from Justin Welsh. It says this: mastering social media doesn't mean doing what you see other popular accounts doing. We think this. We think, oh, there's an account with lots of followers, so let's just copy what they're doing because maybe they're doing it right. Here's the reality. What works for other people might not work for you on social media. But more importantly, what works for other people might not work for other people. What I mean by that is that you might be copying someone's strategy that isn't actually working. They might not even have objectives or goals. They don't know how they monetize or how they're serving their audience that they do get. And so you might be looking at them and thinking, here's a record label that's doing social media that I like, but maybe it's not working for them. Maybe it's not sustainable. Maybe it's costing them lots of money. Maybe they had to hire somebody to do that. And so it's really important that we don't copy people, because A, we don't know if their strategy is going to work for us, and B, we don't even know if their strategy is working for them. The other thing that I want to mention when it comes to copying other people is that in this business of art and in the music industry, it's important that we're being creative and not competitive. And I believe that creativity is the opposite of competition. I didn't come up with that. Somebody else came up with that. But competition is the opposite of creativity. We're supposed to be innovative in this space. We're supposed to be creative. And so for us to just copy the advertising and marketing strategies of other people is just not a great way to do business in an arts industry. Does that make sense? So remember that. And that copying ends up becoming a great way to make yourself invisible, because we start to blend with everybody else who's doing the same thing. Our call to actions sound the same. Our tweets sound the same as our peers. Our graphics and our pictures and all of our content ends up looking homogenous with everybody else in our community. And it's a great way to make your record label invisible. And I don't want you to do that. So stop copying other people. It's not great. It's not great for your mental health either. It's just not a good strategy. The second problem I see is that the record labels fail to deplatform their followers. What do I mean by that? We have to set out, in a second, we're going to talk about goals and objectives, but we have to know what to do with people when they come to follow us on Instagram, or if they like or they see one of our TikToks and they follow us there, or they just become one of the viewers, or maybe they read one of our tweets. And I see a lot of labels who fail to effectively deplatform people, and platforms don't like this. Twitter wants you to stay on Twitter. Now, it's easy to do in-platform stuff. For example, if you're on Twitter, it's easy to follow someone else on Twitter. Twitter makes it easy to do that. If you're on Facebook, it's easy to join a Facebook group. That stuff is all fine. but it's very difficult to deplatform someone, to interrupt someone's scroll and have them hop from Instagram over to Bandcamp or hop to Spotify. That's really difficult to do. And so what you want to make sure is two things. Number one, do all that you can do to promote in-platform conversions. So that means get onto Bandcamp editorial or have them feature you on the new and noteworthy, because then they'll click on your album cover. A little dialogue will pop up in the bottom right corner where they can start listening to your music. And then if they want, there's a little buy button and they can buy your album. And so that is all staying within the same platform. But when it comes to cross-platform, that's where we need to make that process as smooth and as idiot-proof as possible. Let's just be conscious about how difficult it is to deplatform someone, and let's have a strategy in place that if our goal is to get more Spotify followers, or if our goal is to get pre-orders on our Bandcamp page for a new vinyl pressing, then we need to have that goal in mind and then figure out how we're going to smoothly deplatform someone. And if we don't think we can interrupt their Instagram scroll to have them click to our link in bio, then click over to our Bandcamp, then we need to find another way to reach them. And this leaves me to my final mistake that I see people having on social media for record labels is that they fail to have an objective and they fail to have goals. Now, an objective is an overarching thing. Why are you on social media? Why are you on TikTok? Well, for a lot of us, I think we're on there because of FOMO. We feel like we should be, and that we feel like other record labels are and other businesses are. And so we feel like we need to be. That's not a great objective, as I mentioned earlier. But we need to have an objective. And let me suggest an objective for you, why you have a social media plan or why you do social media as a record label. Let me suggest this objective. It's to have your music heard, to support your artists creatively, to support your artists emotionally, and to support your artists financially. So that's kind of our objective, right? But goals are different. You can have multiple goals within your overarching objective. And that could be, goals could be, we want to increase our Spotify follower count. I told this story recently, but for me, as an independent artist, I realized that the more Spotify followers I have, the more plays I get when I release a new single. That's because if somebody follows me on Spotify, anytime I release a new album or a new single, then that song gets entered into their release radar playlist automatically. And so because I'm prolific on Spotify and on releasing music, I try to release something at least once a month, if not one or two times a quarter. That means that every time I release a single, that I get at least a few thousand streams in the first couple of days just because of the amount of followers that I have. And so I've noticed that and I realize, hey, there's a great return that comes from my Spotify followers. So I should really target all of my social media to invite people to follow me on Spotify. If there was one thing that people could do, it's either join my mailing list, which I have and is available on my.com, or it's to follow me on Spotify. And so if I'm posting on something on social media, I need to ask myself, what is my goal here in posting this specific post, this specific picture, or this specific advertisement? Is it to have people join my mailing list? Is it people to go to Bandcamp to pre-order my new album? Is it to have people follow me on Spotify? So that's a goal. And so what I'm suggesting for you is, yes, have an overarching strategy. And I think that is just to have our artists discovered and to grow our record label and to have our music heard. But at the same time, we need to have individual goals, tangible goals that we can actually measure and say, today's post, here's the goal with today's post. So am I asking people to click a link? Is there an easy link for them to do? Am I just trying to stay top of mind? That's an okay goal to have too, but it's important that we have a goal for everything we post. So there you go. As I work together on this episode, I realized these three things all kind of fall together. Copying other people, failing to deplatform, not having an objective. It all kind of falls under this umbrella of strategy, right? Is saying, do you have a plan? Why are you doing social media? Is it FOMO? Is it because you're copying people and you're not actually being creative? I think it's important that we look at these three things and find out what you're guilty of. Now, it's not all bad news in today's episode. I have some good news. And again, if you're feeling like this is a lot to handle, I'm going to include all of this in some sort of note on our webpage, or maybe it's a PDF. I don't know. I haven't made it yet. But go to otherrecordlabels.com/social media, and however I'm going to provide my notes for you, you can download it there for free. Here's the healthy way to do social media. Number one is to give yourself a break. First of all, you don't have to do social media if you don't want to, or you can only just do the platforms that you're most comfortable with. I know this is sacrilegious. I know that people are going to disagree with this, but just try it out. And I just want to say, listen, social media isn't the end all be all. It might feel like it is, but it may not be. And here's how we can tell. Analyze your analytics. I know that's redundant, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to look through all of your social media platforms and see how many views you're getting. How many views are these posts getting? How many interactions are people? Are they liking it? Are they clicking your profile link? More importantly, go to your website or go to your Bandcamp. If you have a Squarespace or a Wix page, that should come with some embedded analytics, and you can see where people are coming from. Look at the past 30 days, 90 days, the past year, and say, how many people came from Twitter to my website? How many people came from Reddit? Because I post on Reddit all the time. How many people come from Reddit? How many people come from Instagram? TikTok is very difficult to stay relevant and to do eye-catching things on there. Is all my efforts wasted? Are people actually coming to my website? If you have followers on all these social media platforms, who cares? I mean, if it doesn't mean that they actually come and support your artist and support your record label, then who cares if we have all these vanity metrics? It might make you feel good, cool, but it's not really that great if it doesn't help sustain your artists and the career of you and of your record label and of your artists. And so let's go and measure. What gets measured gets managed. We've talked about that before. I love that quote. So let's look at our analytics and find how many of these platforms are actually driving people to our website. If you use Bandcamp, and if you have a Bandcamp Pro account or a label account or even just a basic account, you can look at some basic analytics, and you'll be able to see where people are coming to various pages on your Bandcamp. And so if they're coming from somebody who wrote about you on a blog, great. If they're coming from Twitter, if they're coming from Instagram, then you know you're doing something right. My point is, you need to know. You need to know if your efforts on social media are working. And don't overvalue and don't waste your time. Don't waste your time and don't overvalue certain platforms or any platforms. And so that's my big thing for you is number one, solution for you on social media is let's take a break. Let's pull back and see if it makes a difference. And I'll tell you what, if I look at my Instagram and I have 2,000 or 3,000 followers, but my posts are only being seen by 20 or 30 people, this is true. This is crazy numbers. A regular post or a regular story is maybe only being seen by 1 or 2%. And then of those people, how many people are hopping over this week from Instagram, which remember is very difficult if they're scrolling, hopping over from there to my website to actually listen to the record. If it's 1 or 2, I maybe need to reevaluate how much time and effort and mental effort I'm putting into my Instagram strategy. So that's what I want you to do. Number 2, and this leads in from number 1, is to understand what social media is about. Number 1 is that it's just another touch point. And so this is the reason why I keep up with social media a little bit, but I don't put too much weight into it, is that marketing people say that we need 7 or 8 individual touch points with our audience before they convert, before they become a fan or make a purchase with us. And so that might be seeing a flyer outside in the real world. That might be hearing word of mouth. There might be hearing a song or hearing about us on the radio. That might be one social media post followed by another social media post, and so on and so on. And so social media ends up just being one of those touch points. It's great to have because they might hear about something new that you have because their friend posted it on Twitter, and then another friend mentioned it at work, and now they're seeing your Instagram post about it, and maybe that's enough for them to tip over and go to Spotify and actually listen to the album or add their album on Apple Music. And so a lot of us need 7 or 8 touch points, and social media can be those free touch points. The other thing is that social media kind of provides us with essentially free online ads. Let me explain. In 2020, the average price for 1,000 impressions for a Facebook ad was $7.19. So if you wanted your graphic to be seen by 1,000 people, it was $7.19. And that was 2 years ago. It's probably gone up now. That means if you're doing organic posting on social media and you get 100 views on Instagram, maybe another 100 views on Instagram Reels or Instagram Stories, maybe 100 views on Facebook. This isn't a lot, by the way. Maybe 50 on Twitter, maybe another 50 on Reddit, maybe 250 on TikTok, maybe 100 on LinkedIn. If you start to add all these up, you realize, hold on, I just did one post. I copied the same post to all these different platforms. Maybe you even used a software platform like Later, which I've tried out recently, is pretty decent, and cross-promoted really easy, the same post across all these platforms, you might just be getting like $10 worth of free ads by posting every single day. So I think of social media, I don't overthink it too much. I just kind of think it's like free ads. If I'm paying for these impressions, I can now do this for free organically. And the final thing is, it's also important that we understand, as we understand what social media is for, is we understand that these platforms want our users and want users to become reliant, and they want them to engage with the platform. They want them to stay on the platform. They want them to become addicted to the platform. And so we need to just keep in mind that we don't waste too much time of our business's time promoting someone else's business. And so the more effort you put into being successful on TikTok, or even the more effort you put into YouTube, although I think YouTube is completely different, but the more effort you put into Instagram or in being funny on Twitter, you're really promoting their platform and you're not necessarily promoting your platform. So keep that in mind. Okay, finally, before I let you go, is number 3 solution for a social media strategy for record labels is to come up with a sustainable strategy. And I have something I'm going to share with you, something I'm going to recommend that I think is super simple. Make a strategy that works for you, that you can comfortably manage on a weekly basis. If it's too audacious, it's going to fall apart. It can only be sustainable if it's authentic and if it's simple and it's something that you feel like you can manage, especially for our labels out there who don't have a big staff to run this whole operation, right? So here's what I suggest. And this is a social media strategy I've used in the past. I've used it with other record labels as well. Post something on your social media 5 to 7 times a week. And so that means 5 to 7 days per week. But on each day, assign a theme or an objective to each post, which happens on each day of the week. So this will help you know what to post and how to stay consistent. So for example, let's say on Monday, every Monday, and I have a little chart that you can see on when you look at the notes of today's episode, but this little chart that says, okay, on Monday, you share an inspirational quote or a lyric from one of the artists on your label. On Tuesday, and remember, you print this off, you customize this for yourself, and you post it on your desk. And so you know what you should always be posting. So you don't have to be reactive. You can be proactive, and you can even schedule these a week in advance and say, hey, I just want some touch points out there in the world so people think about my label, so I get some free impressions. So here's what I'm going to do. Monday, I'm going to share an inspirational quote. Tuesday, I'm going to share some behind the scenes content like me packaging orders or meeting with an artist. Wednesday, I'm going to promote someone else in my music community. So maybe that's a local venue or a local record store or another record label you admire, or an artist who's not on your roster, or a charitable organization. On Thursday, you're going to promote the various ways that your audience can support you, like Patreon and merch. And on Friday, you're going to promote your newest release, because Friday's new release day. So your newest release or your most current release. On Saturday, let's say we just take a day off. We don't have to post something. You could fill in this slot, but for me, let's just say Saturdays we don't post. Everyone's out doing something else anyway. And Sunday, let's promote a back catalog release, something that's come out last year or many years ago that we feel like was overlooked. So let's promote that. So I'm suggesting here 6 days of the week that we have a theme. So I know that today is Tuesday. So what am I posting today? I'm posting behind the scenes content. I just look at my desk, and I have one posted here on my desk. I just look at my desk and I go, oh, it's Tuesday behind the scenes. So I'll take a shot of whatever I'm working on today, or maybe I'll have some behind the scenes content stored up that I can share, or maybe one of my artists on the roster is in the studio and they can text me a photo from in the studio or from working on something that, or on tour, that they can share with me and I'll post. And so I know I don't have to really plan out anything special. I don't have to get crazy about anything. I just know Tuesday's behind the scenes day. So there you have it. Those are the 3 solutions. Is number 1, give yourself a break and look at your analytics and see what's working. Number 2 is understand social media for what it is, which is touch points. It's free advertising for us, and it's somebody else's platform that we might be helping grow instead of growing our own platform. And finally, creating a sustainable strategy. And I hope you found this helpful, because honestly, I want to make social media easy for you, because it is it's an annoying, for a lot of us, it's an annoying responsibility, because we're trying to make records, we're trying to promote records, we're trying to discover artists and support artists and work in that artistic realm. And social media is one of those things that kind of is just bothering us in the back of my mind. I see it from you in the emails and in our comments in our community. So, a lot of this was taken from our new book, Record Label Marketing Strategies. I want you to check it out. There's a link for it in the description below. I'd love it if you picked up a copy. You can get it on Amazon and leave a review if you like it. Also, the notes from today's episode are available at otherrecordlabels.com/social media. Thanks for watching.